Welcome to this regular meeting of the Kingman City Council on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021 at 5 o'clock. Could we please have a call to order? Well, I had called a roll call.
Yes.
Stop
Mayor
it.
Miles,
Present.
Vice Mayor Watkins is excused this evening. Councilmember Mello,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Note that she's online.
she is on the Zoom. Councilmember Samily,
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley,
I don't know. Can you see if she's on? Do you see?
yeah, Councilmember Staley is there.
Okay.
Good.
I'm just concerned if they can hear us. Councilor Staley, can you hear us?
Let's do a test. Mike Mearsman, can you let us know if you can hear us?
Jamie is highlighted like we should be hearing her, and Dina as
So
well.
yep, they are. We're not hearing them.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
we do have a quorum. Let me get IT up here real
How's
quick.
everybody doing? Can we hear?
Oh,
We
Can you
hear you
hear me?
now.
There you
Councilor
are,
Nelson,
yay.
we hear you now.
We can hear you.
There
Yes.
we go.
And now
All
we
right,
can hear
I'm
you.
here.
Good.
Thank you.
I'd ask us to stand for the invocation, which will be given by Mr. Russ Jenquist of College Park Community Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Father God, as we gather here tonight, Lord, we would ask wisdom upon each of
I can't hear anything from council.
Dear Father God, as we gather here together tonight for this meeting of the Kingman City Council, we ask that you would be with us here tonight, Lord, that you would impart wisdom upon each of the council members and any person who wishes to speak before council tonight, Lord. We pray that each item is considered carefully and that all the procedures are followed with just decorum and dignity, Lord. We pray this all in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431-03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto.
Ron, council is muted.
Annie, I
The
think you
council
said
chambers themselves was actually muted.
Yes.
the council.
I just text Annie to let her know.
The council chamber is muted, according to those watching. Well, I'll take a moment here to let you know that because we've been unable to meet the advertised ways of commenting to the council, we are pulling the new business items A, D, and E. A, D, and E. And we will reassign them to an upcoming agenda. I would just like to give a big thank you to Manager Foggin, to all of the city team, to all of the staff, and to the National Guard Cyber Joint Task Force, who are helping us get through this period of limited functionality due to the cyber attack.
Let's check now, Mayor. Are you hearing us on the Zoom meeting?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
All
Yes.
right. Thank you for letting us know. We really appreciate you, your patience on us trying to get this worked through. Just so you know, the mayor announced that items, let's see,
A,
items.
D, and E are
Yes.
being postponed and will be reassigned to an upcoming agenda because of the fact that all of our advertised ways of communicating with council have not been available. But we will continue with the agenda, and the first order of business is a call to the public. Comments from the public, those wishing to address the council, should fill out request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group, and the comment should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. And as noted, this was advertised as a hybrid meeting with call-in participation and written comments accepted, but this evening, I think that we will be limited to those that are in attendance. And Annie, did anyone want to call in? Did anybody have anything before?
I did not have anybody submit anything to my office or call to register to participate.
Okay, then at this time, we would give each speaker that's here that would like to address the council 3 minutes to come forward if there is anyone that registered. No one registered in the meeting either?
That is correct.
Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is required, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do any of the council members wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through J.
Mayor, I will move that we accept the consent agenda as presented, A through J.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilor Walker. We've a motion and a second to approve the agenda as consent agenda. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. We have no old business, and as noted, we are skipping through item A and going to item B on the new business, which is public hearing and consideration of Resolution 5335 approving the vacation or abandonment of Parcel A of Rancho Santa Fe 2, Track 1943A. A request from Ben and Kimberly Gross for the vacation of Parcel A of Rancho Santa Fe, Track 1943A. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on February 2nd, 2021, and voted 6-1 to recommend approval of the vacation of Parcel A, subject to the conditions as stated in the Planning and Zoning Commission report and incorporated in the proposed Resolution 533A. Staff recommends approval. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. Gary Likeness, staff planner, here to present the case before you. Again, it's a consideration of Resolution 5335, approval of a vacation or abandonment of Parcel A, as the mayor mentioned in the introduction. I'll go through a PowerPoint slide that was presented essentially the same to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which, as was mentioned, they recommended the abandonment 6-1 approval. The abandonment request, I'm not sure, let's see. It's a little different. It's not a PowerPoint, it's on PDF, so I want to make sure you see it okay. I'm trying to maximize the screen, is that? Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. Parcel A is a parcel that is in the Rancho Santa Fe recorded subdivision tract 1943A. Parcel A is approximately 1,750 square feet and is about 10 feet by 170 feet long. And the final plat for 1943A was recorded in 1993. And this Parcel A, the subject of this hearing, was dedicated as a public walkway to the city of Kingman and to the public. The parcel is considered public right-of-way. The area, just for information, was annexed in 1990. The purpose of the request is generally so the applicant has expressed interest in obtaining the additional 5 feet that they would obtain from this vacation to allow them to construct an addition or a separate garage. Not totally sure on the design elements of it, but that is their desire, is to obtain this right away for purposes of building on their lot, which is adjacent to Parcel A, and I'll show you in the slides that follow. Parcel A is highlighted here. This is the recorded plat, and Parcel A is highlighted with the red arrow. It's the little blue line there. It's on the western side of the final plat here, and adjacent to another tract of the Rancho Santa Fe subdivision. Down at the bottom of this page, just want to highlight, in the lower right, I've kind of zoomed into Parcel A so you could see how it looks on the recorded plat. Again, 10 feet by 175 feet. There's sort of a location map. This part of the Rancho Santa Fe subdivision, Parcel A is located south of Louise Avenue, west of Diamond Spur Street. It actually connects to Diamond Spur, and then is north of Southern Avenue, and this is, of course, south of I-40. The zoning of the Rancho Santa Fe in that general area is zoned R120, which is a single-family 20,000 square foot lot minimum. However, most of them, I believe, are about almost a half acre each, so far above that minimum. The surrounding area on the General Plan 2030, the area is designated as low-density residential, which is 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. Physical characteristics of Parcel A, it's at grade with Diamond Spur where it connects, and then it slopes up towards the middle. And I'll show you some pictures and aerial photos in a second. But it slopes up, it kind of crowns in the middle of the block, and then starts to slope down to the west. There are no known utilities located in the parcel. Again, the parcel was dedicated as a public walkway, and the parcel connects to a parcel in a separate part of the Rancho Santa Fe subdivision, but it's called Tract G, or Parcel G, and it is a similarly shaped parcel that would allow the cross through, and I'll show you on the aerial here, as the walkway. A picture's worth 1,000 words here. Highlighted in yellow is the subject parcel, Parcel A, and as I mentioned, it connects to the east. You can see on the right there, Diamond Spur Street, and I've labeled the applicant's properties to the south there. And then the Parcel G that I briefly mentioned is to the west, and you can see it's a similar parcel, similarly shaped parcel, and it connects to Rawhide Drive. And Parcel A and Parcel G together create that what was intended to be a public walkway from Diamond Spur to Rawhide Drive. Here's sort of a street view of Parcel A. We've got our posted sign there. Again, it's 10 feet wide. You can't quite tell, but it does gently slope up towards the middle, and then kind of jumps up towards the very middle of the block, or there. And then again, it slopes down on to the west. We did our public notification in the newspaper. Properties within 300 feet were noticed of the proposal and of the hearings. During our internal review staff comments, the engineering department looked at it and actually did a site visit with me in January to look at the site and take photos. And their concern was about drainage, possible drainage. If the right-of-way, that parcel A is abandoned, if there is some drainage flowing from the west to the east towards Diamond Spur, that if someone were to put up a block wall, it might pool behind that, impede drainage. So as a condition, they wanted to make sure that if this is vacated, that a condition is that drainage won't be impeded. And that is reflected in the, the proposed resolution, that condition. An analysis of the proposal is, it's governed by our street and sidewalks development rules and regulations. Section 5-1 has to first be a right-of-way designated as such, and parcel A is, so it's eligible to be vacated. The other section, it can't be utilities, sewer, et cetera, and there are none in that parcel. The next section is about consideration of the value of the abandoned or vacated right-of-way, and the applicant proposed $2,000 as the value of that right-of-way. There was no professional appraisal done or anything like that, but that is the proposal they put forward. According to the Arizona revised statutes, when a parcel or right-of-way is vacated, half of that right-of-way will go to the adjacent property owner and the other half will go to the other adjacent property owner. As I mentioned, on February 9th, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this and they did recommend approval of the vacation of parcel A, and that is reflected in Resolution 5335, which is before you. And those are the two conditions, just talking about the which portion would go to which, and then also about the drainage issue that engineering brought up. And with that, I believe that's the end of the slide. I would stand for questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding this presentation? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Are the applicants here?
The applicant is with us via Zoom if anybody had any questions for the applicant.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Then I would open the floor for discussion or motion. Just looking at the photos, I have concerns about this because it changes the coherency of that walkway. And if, again, you always go back to precedent setting. If we're going to give that plot 5 more feet into that space, we would have to consider that if anybody else in the area wants 5 more feet onto their property for a garage. It's the only thought I had. Yes, Manager Fagan?
It actually anticipates giving the entire 10 feet up, 5 feet to one side of the property and 5 feet to the other owner of the adjacent property. So it wouldn't necessarily leave a gap of unused property. So just to be clear on that.
Further down that alley, though, or that?
Well, the 10 feet,
It looked like the walkway goes from one major street to the other major street.
correct.
So this will block part of that.
Part of it, yep, that's correct.
And if you give 10 and 10, what if they both build out and build walls? I mean, 5 and 5. Thank you.
Yeah. It would leave the other side, the other half block with that public open space.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Walker.
My question would be for the applicant, are they planning on moving the fence, or do they just need this extra 5 feet to gain their setback? So is the fence going to stay intact,
That's a very
maybe?
good question, yes.
So I would like to ask that question if they are online.
Ms. Gross, if you want to unmute and answer Councilmember Walker's question.
Yes, Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. This is Kim Gross, and I am the applicant that has this item. We do not intend on building in that easement portion. We will not be relocating our fence. We simply just need the footage to erect the garage within our current backyard. So there is no intent for us or the neighboring property owner to build in that sliver of land, nor to relocate our block walls. One other thing I might add, because I know the mayor said that she was concerned about setting the precedent. The neighbors to the west of us are also interested in having that other piece abandoned to them. So I think they'll follow up after our request to ask for that as well. So there'll be some consistency with that whole piece being vacated at some point. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gross. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And that helped me understand it better, too. I
Sure.
understand the setback issue. Is there any?
Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead, Councilor Staley.
Yes, I'm the liaison for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I just wanted to share some of their discussion that they had over this item. First of all, they had a really robust discussion. A lot of great points were brought up. And I believe that the property owner was really able to address any concerns that they had and made most of the commissioners feel at ease with moving forward on this. The biggest items that they had heartburn over, one was how we came to the value of $2,000. And that's how you had the one nay vote on the commission. And then the other one was the same concern about blocking this walkway and taking that from the neighborhood. But as it turns out, that the city has not been able to maintain that pathway through those homes anyway. So it really isn't used as any kind of a walkway or pedestrian or bike path, just because it's just not maintained. And this property owner, they have been taking care of their portion of it all along. So the commission did decide to go ahead and approve this item.
Thank you, Councilor Staley. That also helps a lot. Any other comments, questions? Then I would entertain a motion regarding,
Mayor,
yes.
have we opened it up to the?
Oh, it's a public hearing. I've been out of the office too long. I'm going to call this public hearing to order regarding the vacation of parcel A of Rancho Santa Fe, tract 1943A. And I ask if there is anyone that would like to comment on this request for vacation. Again, I will ask if there's anyone who wants to comment to the council. Hearing none, I will close this public hearing. And now I would entertain a motion regarding this request.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 5335 as written by staff.
Thank you, Councilor Walker. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Samley. Then we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 5335. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. And the next order of new business is public hearing and consideration of resolution number 5336, authorizing a conditional use permit to allow a mini storage facility located at Southern Avenue and Railroad Street. Trevin Pennington, applicant, and Praise Chapel International, property owner, have requested approval of a conditional use permit to allow a mini storage facility for boats and recreational vehicles on property located at the southeast corner of Southern Avenue and Railroad Street. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this request on February 9th, 2021. The commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the CUP request with the conditions as stated in Resolution Number 5336. Staff recommends approval. Good evening, Mr. Ruggles.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, and members of the council. Let's see. Just want to be sure I can, oops. It's not hooked up, okay. So page down, is that how I manipulate the slides? No? Oh,
You can go right here,
oh, okay,
or you can just use this.
okay, that'll work. Sorry, we usually have the PowerPoint, not the PDF, and so the applicant in this case is Travin Pennington. Praise Chapel International is the property owner, and the requested action is to approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a mini storage facility for RVs and boats on property that is Zone C2, Commercial Community Business. This property is located at the southeast corner of Railroad Street and Southern Avenue. This is the general plan map showing the area. This may seem like a fairly familiar location. In December, the council considered a general plan amendment and a rezoning, which were both approved. The property was changed to community commercial under the general plan, which is the 1.65 acres that you can see there with the star. The remainder of the property was left as intermediate density residential to the south and to the east. And to the west across Railroad Street is the area designated community commercial, as well as some areas designated light industrial. A little too far there. This is the zoning map. As I mentioned at the same meeting, the property was rezoned to C2, which does allow mini storage facilities by conditional use permit. The property to the east and south and to the north is all zoned R16, residential single-family 6,000 square foot lot minimum. Property to the west is zoned I1, light industrial, and there's some C2 HMR zoning further to the south, closer to Wallapai Mountain Road. Surrounding uses, the property is surrounded on the south and east sides by vacant property. There are single-family homes to the north and to the east. There's a well service business on the other side of Railroad Street. And further south, we have Praise Chapel as well as additional single-family homes. This is the street and utility map showing there is water and sewer in the area. Both streets are improved with curb, gutter, and sidewalk, although the portion adjacent to the property along Railroad Street is not improved beyond just pavement. The west side of the street is, however, paved with or improved with curb, gutter, and sidewalk. A small portion of the northwest corner of the property is within a couple of flood zones, and we'll address that a little later in the presentation. The remainder of the site is not within a flood zone and is all a buildable site. A couple of photos of the site. This is looking east from Railroad Street across the property to the east. And another photo looking south close to Railroad Street. We followed the typical public notification process. We didn't receive any comments from the public. The department and agency comments, there were no objections from any departments. Engineering did comment that curb and gutter will need to be installed across the frontage of Railroad Street and Southern Avenue at the time of development. There would also be a drainage analysis needed, and the Municipal Utilities Commission and Council would need to approve water services as this is an unsubdivided parcel. The Mojave County Flood Control District mentioned the need for a floodplain use permit because of the property being partly within a floodplain. And Frontier commented on the need to relocate any facilities that may need to be relocated. That would be at the developer's expense. This is a conceptual plan of the site. The intent would be to have 2 phases for development. The first phase would have a 9,600 square foot building with 12 16 by 50 foot storage bays for boats or RVs. The second phase would include a 11,200 square foot building, as well as a 4,000 square foot building, also the same size, 16 by 50, total of 19 bays. The interior area between the buildings would be paved with an adequate maneuvering area for larger vehicles and trailers. So in accordance with the Kingman zoning ordinance, conditional use permit section, the Planning and Zoning Commission made findings as it applied to this particular case on several different elements. The first element is on the applicable regulations. Mentioned the general plan and the zoning are both in accordance with the plan, and the zoning is in accordance with, or is C2, which would allow the conditional use permit to be considered on the property. Also, as I mentioned, the water service will have to be approved by the council after review by MUC. Bulk regulations, the building height is not known. However, it would need to be tall enough to accommodate a large RV. The maximum allowable height in this district is 50 feet, so it would be obviously less than that. The site does exceed the minimum lot size, 1.65 acres. Minimum size is 7,500 square feet. They will have to resurvey the property and do a parcel plat to split this from the remainder of the property. There's a requirement for a 10-foot setback adjacent to the portion of the property that butts the R16 zone to the south and east. And the conceptual plan indicated there would be about 15-foot setback to the nearest the point of the building to the nearest property line. So it appears to be in accordance with our requirements. There will also be a masonry fence built, which is required 6 to 8 feet in height. They're proposing a 6-foot block wall around the entire property. There's no specific standard for parking associated with mini storage units. However, as I mentioned, the central area will be paved for maneuvering of vehicles, and it will be about 80 feet in width. It doesn't appear that this facility would have any adverse impact on surrounding properties. Traffic patterns, they're not expecting a lot of traffic to be generated by this development, perhaps 1 or 2 trips per day. The conceptual plan did mention that, or did show that there'd be some improvements on Railroad Street and Southern Avenue. It will be necessary to complete those improvements, including a connection around the corner. That would be at the time of development of the site. It doesn't appear the site will create any issues with nuisances. However, as mentioned, it is within partly within a FEMA flood zone, and as mentioned by or is commented on by the flood control district, the permit there'll be a need for a floodplain use permit at the time of development. That will allow the county to determine whether there's the construction will have an impact on the floodplain and what mitigation measures will be needed to ensure the development is properly protected from flooding. In addition, our city engineer mentioned the need for drainage analysis that would be required by the Kingman Master Drainage Plan. So the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this item in February. They voted 7-0 to recommend approval with the conditions as stated below on the slide. One would be to complete the street improvements along the property frontages on Southern Avenue and Railroad Street at the time of development. Landscaping would also need to be placed on the property particularly adjacent to the walls and buildings to provide a visual buffer from nearby residences and properties. 3, a flood use permit would be, need to be obtained from Mojave County Flood Control. And a drainage analysis shall be prepared by Kingman Master Drainage as required by the Kingman Master Drainage Plan. So with that, staff is recommending approval of resolution number 5336. And I stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Do any of the counselors have questions for Mr. Ruggles? Thank you, Rich.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. I see that the applicant is here. I don't know if there are any questions at this point for Travis Pennington. Then let's go ahead to the public hearing. I now call this public hearing to order. And I ask if there's anyone who would like to address the council with respect to Resolution 5336, authorizing the conditional use permit for a mini storage facility located at Southern Avenue and Railroad Street. Again, I would ask, is there anyone that would like to address the council? Hearing none, I will close this public hearing. And now I would ask if there's any further discussion, or if you would, I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 5336 as with staff recommendations.
Thank you, Councilor Walker.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 5336. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. It was a very comprehensive report. Now we'll move on to department reports, and this evening we have the Kingman Fire Department 2020 Annual Performance Report by Chief Rhodes. Perhaps a PDF.
Well, I was able to get a PowerPoint together.
Okay, good.
Let's not look at the quality of it, but rather the content. We'll we'll do that this evening. So, okay. So, thank you, Mayor, council members, both here and virtually. It's always an honor to. But I feel like I should be, Annie. Oh, sorry.
What would any of us do without Annie?
So welcome again. Thank you again, Mayor, council members, both here and virtually, and Annie I will hear about this tomorrow. I appreciate that. So it's always an honor. It's already March, and when we put this on the schedule 3 or 4 months ago, it's like, oh, that's in March, no big deal. And then other things happen. So we put this together. It's always good to talk about what we did in 2020. It seems so long ago, on a year that we really want to forget, but highlighting what we've done, what we're working on, and really what we've accomplished in that time period. And so, as you know, we're very diverse. We are a diverse department for sure. Unlike many other fire departments in Arizona and the country, if you look at our org chart, it doesn't even encompass everything now, because you do have, obviously, the fire department on the left-hand side in the red, traditional fire department in that aspect. But then we add in the dispatch center, which is a fantastic communication center as it's developed over the years and become what it is, as CALIA accredited and everything else. But this last year, one thing I'll talk about is the addition of community development, which was our building department that we took in 3 or 4 years ago, and then added planning and zoning this last year to make it community development. So it's changed the dynamics of us quite a bit into a model that really is focused on 2 things, and that is customer service and safety. And we focus on those quite a bit. And a lot of things, a lot of efforts that we've taken on especially in the IGA with Northern Arizona Fire District, and that agreement is really focused on the safety of personnel, the best thing for what we think for the community and the safety of personnel. I know this is kind of clunky with just text up here, and we'll get past this pretty quick, but the addition to some of our achievements this last year is things that we were kind of able to step up our game a little bit outside of just Kingman. Obviously, the Community Development Department, but also having the first annual Officer Development Academy in Bullhead, where several chiefs from around the country, around the state and country, we were able to bring up in Bullhead for the first of a series of officer development. And it's something that we've worked hard on here in Kingman, but now be able to broaden that reach, and the quality of instructors that we get here are second to none when it comes to conferences, but they're a phone call away, which is fantastic. COVID protocol, that is something that we were faced with early and often. In March, March 11th, we enacted plans that were second to none. When you have other departments across the state calling you and how are you handling that, that says a lot about what we're doing. But that was able to, the screening, the CDC screening that we implemented right away with dispatch, and implementing that with our folks kept us safe throughout. And we had, knock on wood, very, very little lost time early in the pandemic, which was very key for us. Construction of Station 22, that obviously is ongoing still, but the training grounds, adding that this last year, and what a difference that has made. We see that coming to fruition now over the last few weeks with live fire training and those drills that we weren't able to do before, especially to the complexity of what we're doing now. Obviously, live burn instructors and doing those type of things. Adding a part-time paramedic, and you don't think much about that, but why are you doing that? And it's an alternative means of trying to staff the squad, which we found that alternative staffing and trying to keep that unit up and going is instrumental in the way we do business. Again, you'll see in call volume why we're trying to address those things. CALIA accreditation for our dispatch center, it is hands down one of the best things that we've done in this community, because we're one of only two in the country that are run by fire departments. Most communication centers are run by police departments. It's rare that fire departments actually run it. So we're the second in the country to be CALIA accredited, and that's pretty fantastic in itself. Obviously, several grants, we really focus hard on those, and thankfully last Thursday evening at about 6:06, we submitted our last grant for this year to meet the deadline for some FEMA grants. So thankfully, we at least got those in for this next coming year. So knock on wood and pray that we're as successful as we have been. The HIDA program and the OD mapping, some of the opioid programs, they've enlisted us in our communication center, so people are reaching out to us to be part of those programs. And that says a lot when the police community is reaching out in what we've done and partnering with our police department, our communication center, and us to be one of the few in the state that are doing that. And we're also doing that with National Fire Protection Association Community Risk Assessment Program. We're one of 264 departments across the country that have been asked to participate, one of 4 in the state. So again, that name says a lot. 2 pictures that I'm very proud of, one being the training tower, and you can see the MCC. We're having the Recruit Academy there. What a fantastic site that is, but shows exactly what's going on up there. And of course, Station 2, it's hard to even picture what was there before. And we'll do an open house on that April 1st, and we'll make sure everybody's invited. But we're almost there. Knock on wood. We can speed up a few things and get that thing completed for sure. So everything we do based on our mission of the Kingman Fire Department is to enhance the life, property, and well-being of our community. And you see our internal values, and all this is developed by our employees. That's how engaged our employees are. I'm very, very fortunate that I have the personnel that we do, because they are a vital part of our organization. The service they deliver, the professionalism, the focus on safety and proficiency, the integrity they have, it embodies what we do in every call we have. 79 employees, that's without our part-time personnel. Civilian personnel, you can see kind of varies. That's everyday staff. So that kind of varies. Number of stations, 4. Obviously, we'll talk about Station 5 at a later date. But those are things that are out there on the horizon for us. Getting into the meat a little bit, and I know numbers, right? I can talk about numbers all day. But one thing that's important here, 8,450 calls. Important. Why? Because that number of calls keeps going up. And we're seeing it across all public safety, police, fire, or police dispatching us. We're seeing that. 83% of that is medical. We run ALS on all of our engines, paramedics on all of our trucks, but that squad is instrumental in that, in the service delivery. So you can see over 6,900 calls are EMS. And that is with, right after I got here almost 7 years ago, we implemented EMD. So you can take out those alpha level calls or the low acuity calls, the non-emergent calls that we used to go on all the time. That actually cuts out about 1,700 calls for us. So if you can imagine what our call volume would be out of 4 stations, that's a busy little department. I can tell you that. So you can see also our fire risk has gone up. Our fire incidents by risk keeps climbing. You can attribute that to a lot of the weather and other events that are out there, but slowly and surely they're climbing as well. But we're fortunate too that we have a low occurrence of actually high volume fire calls or high impact fire calls. So we're still lucky in that regard. Incidents by station, a couple things you'll see here is Station 22, the one on Harrison, and Andy Devine. That is our busiest station by far. It is still, always has been, probably always will be, just based on where it's at in their response zone. So the other thing with that station, you got to think too, if another station's out, they're the first to respond to that area. So they're in the middle of town. They're the hub of everything. So that's why the move at Station 2 was to move our battalion chief from down here to up there, so he can be quicker on calls and arriving on those incidents. You can see here the total call volume by year. You can see the upward trend. You can look back at 2015. That's the first year that we implemented EMD. So really that emergency protocol that takes away those non-emergent calls, you can take those away. You can take out that year about 1,300 calls. So you can see about 6,300 calls where we were that year, and you can see the steady incline from that. And it keeps growing. Same service model, same amount of staff and personnel that we've had. So we keep doing that. Obviously, hours of day, we can pretty much determine anywhere from about 7 or 8 in the morning to about 7 or 8 at night. That's when we're busy. That's our high propensity of calls, especially once you get in those noontime hours, that 10 to about 2 or 3 in the day, you can count on us being pretty busy. Busiest units, obviously Station 2's units are by far, but Engine 231, because of their location of mutual aid up to the fire district, that increases their call volume as well. So by far our 2 busiest districts out there. So and you can see a big increase in Station 4's as it grows more and more out there. The more traffic you get out there, so the busier they are as well. Big focus for us, obviously EMS, our top 5 problems that we respond to, breathing problems, and that encompasses a wide variety of things. Psychiatric, falls, a big one for us, especially as we focus in the next year of some of our community risk. But a big area that we look at is our cardiac survivability. And you've probably heard me talk about it in some way or another. Cardiac survivability is a huge, huge focus for us because if you look, take in the numbers here, 82 cardiac arrest calls for the year, 37 of those resuscitations were attempted. We have only a 9% survivability rate in our city. Now, you think, how's that compare? Well, in the state, it's about 33%, 34%. So you have some communities that are there. We're working on efforts from CPR to AED programs to even some apps that will notify you, bystander CPR, and that early shockable rhythm that's a layperson can administer through an AED or automatic external defibrillator that's placed on the wall that you can grab and apply, is one of our big focus. That was our last grant we submitted just the other day, so I'm very, very happy we got that one in. But that and falls are 2 that really are the focus of our community risk reduction program, the public education, the outreach that we focus on. That will be it for the next few years. Train division, obviously good repeat of pictures, but you see the fire training going on in one of our simulators up there, which is fantastic. We did take a dip in training this year. That says 22,978. That's actually 27,978 hours. So still, 27,000 hours compared to, I think the first year I got here was about 9,000. So big emphasis on training. And we try to document well, so I would say that we're still off on our numbers based on just documentation. So I'm very proud of that number. I'm very proud of that number based on COVID. Simply, we locked stations down. There was no outside training. There was none of that went on. So still to achieve and do the things we did and alternate methods of training, I'm very proud of doing those things that we did this last year. Fire activity, you can kind of see some of the numbers we talked about, the increases. Obviously, brush fires are a big one, and we're pretty blessed being surrounded by districts that have more of a focus, but you'll see more of our focus get into wildland over the next few years, trying to bring in income and doing some of those things for deployments, plus help out our partners as well. I think that's very important. Where we focus on structure protection and those other things, we have to expand our borders as well. Residential fires, 158. So that's a bigger number than we've seen in a few years, and something that we have to be prepared for in the future as well by alternate staffing and doing those things. Call volume for the 911 Communications Center. You'll see one thing here that really points out, 59% of their call volume is to police, over 35,000 calls. They took in almost 60,000 calls as a communications center. That's not counting all the other calls, which is well over 110,000 of calls that they get. These are just calls that they dispatched for some type of incident or emergency. So you can see how those play out as well. The number on the right, the 0 minute and 53 seconds, that's the total dispatch time. And why I emphasize that is 7 years ago, that was well over 3 minutes. And now we are consistently, that's the standard that's out there for communication centers, and they hit that mark all the time. And we continue to improve that all the time. So I'm very, very proud of that number and the work that they do every day to get that out. Community development, you can see that, and you'll see numbers this year with residential construction with 454 permits, new commercial permits of 69. We really drive, and you can see the numbers down on the bottom, our compliance models. We try to get those permits in and get them turned around as quick as we can. Of course, we're struggling here as of late. I would say the last few days without email, I would say that's one of our struggles. But simply the sheer numbers that are coming in residential and the turnaround times and things like that. So we're still pushing out there. Good customer service, I think, helps us with that. But still, that push to get out and make alternative arrangements with builders and developers and really help them help themselves. Being more common sense oriented, making sure we're applying the code, but again, that common sense application of it is very, very important for us. Community risk reduction, that is our public education piece that we really focus. One of our biggest areas that was hit in COVID was this group. It really was, because we simply couldn't get out in public. And if we think back to March, our thought was, just like everybody else's, well, it'll be over in May. Okay, maybe June, maybe August. So even our Explorer programs, we had to cancel that mid spring last year and pick it up in the fall and finally finish in December. So it took those kids, 14 of those kids that fall under this community risk category, it took them 18 months. And what's kind of unique is on today, we interviewed for firefighter, and 2 of those kids are in that group, and probably will at least be working as POCs. So success at the end, I talked about that program at the start. Me and Amy West sat right here and talked about that. So be able to hire those kids back if they're successful through their interview. They still got me on Thursday, so we'll see. But I like their chances. They're good kids, and so I'm really, really proud of what we've done with that program. But this program has to be a focus for us, has to be a focus. That prevention effort, that educational effort we have to do better. Obviously, one of the big things of 2020 is the Northern Arizona Fire District. And you'll say, well, that looks a little different. It is. Their emblem and their name are different now. And that came from after the election. In November, the employees came to me and said, hey, we want to change. We want to rebrand. We want to change the culture. And so that's what they did. It was Northern Arizona Consolidated Fire District #1. which is a mouthful in itself. Simply changing it to Northern Arizona Fire District says something. It kind of aligns in the state and gets a fresh new look. So you'll see on the sides of their trucks, stations, everything else out there is this new emblem, the new look for them. And they've changed a lot. In the last year, our management service agreement, we had a management focus. That's safety. If you remember rightly, that the reason we got into that management agreement, one of the big things was doing the best thing for the community and keeping all the people safe, both not only the firefighters but the citizens. And I think we're doing a lot better at that in daily operations and response and everything else. Training's obviously gone up. The level of service delivery has changed quite a bit. The culture and those accomplishments that they've had. If you think about the district in itself, again, size-wise, they have 7 individuals on duty. They're half our size, a little less than half, really. But think about the area they cover. If you look at this graph, anything with a 3 in front of it, that's their area, going from all the way from Chloride through town, up Stockton Hill, across Northern, and up out through Valley Vista, all the way to Truxton. So you think about that area, that's what they cover. That's the district. And it's changed a lot in the last 20 years, going from a 75-person department down to a 25-person department today. That's what's changed in their valuations and budget. That's how much they've had to change services. A couple things here. They had a little over 4,600 calls, almost 4,700 calls. So you think about us, they're a little more than half and doing it with less manpower or less personnel. The one thing I'm proud of here, again, if you look at turnout times, the one thing that firefighters control, and I've said that, I preach this everywhere I go, the one thing that they control is when the bells go off, you get on the trucks. When the bells went off and they got on the trucks out there, it took them over 3 minutes when I first got there. And just through peer pressure, counseling, awareness, attention, and maybe a little enforcement, now that time is down to 1:20 and 1:28. So lots of accomplishments there. Mutual aid given and received, again, something that we have to work on as we move forward. If you think this August is the end of that 2-year pilot, and we're starting to think about what that looks like now as agreement and doing some other things that City Manager Fogg and myself are talking about. But they received aid 330 times for their fires. Anytime they have a fire, we're up there. They have a high propensity of fires and working structure fires up there. And with their daily staffing being seven individuals, think about that. 5 of those are in town. 2 are out in Valley Vista. So by the time the Valley Vista folks get here, that's why we have automatic aid with them. We respond. We've done that for a long time, even before me, but that's something we really focus on. Here's the personnel I kind of talked about. Adding part-timers out there has been key for us, but again, part-time staff are usually working full-time jobs in other places. A lot of Kingman staff work out there, and it's ebb and flow as far as when they work, when they don't work, when they're available, when they're not. So that's a challenge. Future, our focus the next year and beyond, obviously, is there's some low-hanging fruit here, and most of these are bigger ticket items that you'll either see in budget or in our strategic planning process. And that is, what is the future of that district management services agreement? We've really focused on what that looks like. Lots of discussions. Service delivery model, that as well is a focus for us, because we've been doing the same thing as far as 4 stations, 4 units, this, that, and that. So trying to add squads and some other staffing is very important. Community risk reduction and public education goes into cardiac survivability, falls, those type of things. We have to do better out in the public, of educating our public and doing better. So obviously staffing, apparatus condition. We've had a lot of extensive talks on our apparatus and what our fleet looks like. Fire Station 5. Obviously, with the coming of the interchange and probably looking at 2025, we're looking at another station on the east side. We've been talking about Fire Station 5 ever since I've been here in one form or another, so and the need for that. Accreditation, we go back for re-accreditation in 2022. I like our chances there. We have an annual compliance report every year that we're very successful, and we have a lot of involvement in our department in that, obviously. We have assessors that go out that assess other departments and do that are part of this process, and bring that information and those lessons and best practices back to our department. And obviously, training and professional development, that's always been a focus and always will be a focus of mine, of how we make our people better day in and day out, regardless of the emergency that they're called for. Because if you look at our geographic location and the hazards and risks that we're facing every day, it's a challenge. So to wrap up, I would say 2020, I didn't want to wrap up with that. There you go. 2020 was a challenge for everybody. I would say the fire department included, with COVID responses, responding to medical emergencies like we never did before, changing our practice, our level of PPE, the way we encounter the public, going into the challenges with public education. But I would say, again, another successful year for our department. I didn't highlight our awards and those type of things. I hope to have our annual report document out to you in the next few weeks, and you'll get to see for yourself some of those individuals that went above and beyond. I can say that every day about our folks, but the support they give with the new station, the training grounds, they're very proud and they're very thankful for that, and it shows every day in the service they deliver. So I would thank you, and I'll take any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Chief Rose.
I do have a question.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
It was very comprehensive. I'm just curious, the grants you speak of, you spoke of a grant for AED.
Yes.
What other grants, or traditionally, how much in grants are you getting on an annual basis, and what are those grants used for?
So they're so random. So every year, probably the biggest one, the ones that are available to the fire service, are either FEMA or Homeland Security. So for instance, we're wrapping up a drone grant. And you'll think, why do you need a drone? There's so many applications to a drone program that we'll have. So we got that from Homeland Security last year. We're about to put that in service. But if you can think of just a normal scene, this will give us capability when our battalion chief is on scene, and I wish I had a picture of it because it is so cool. They just did a demo of it yesterday. But you can take one on a tether, run it up about 100 feet, and you can see all around the structure. So you can see all those other hazards. So the importance of a drone program, more and more, and it is by far one of the coolest things. Yesterday, while they were doing a demo at Station 2, they had a little grass fire that popped out up by the high school, Kingman High, not Lee Williams, Kingman High. They ran this drone up and focused the camera in close enough that they could read the back nameplates of the people on scene. So think about that capabilities of looking where fires are going and what's happening in that environment. We also just received a $138,000 grant for COVID supplies. So importance of just offsetting what we've used, but not only and what we're going to use in the future. So those are two: SCBA compressor, our self-contained breathing apparatus compressor that we have. We just an $80,000 grant for that. Portable radios. Our radios. Mayor Miles has heard me talk about this, but our radios were at such end of life, they weren't supported anymore. And the spare radios and batteries that I bought, guess where I bought them? eBay. So I don't like saying that out loud, but radios are expensive. And so when you get $140,000 to offset your radio program, that's another one. So this year we put in for more of our training grounds to fix other things. Obviously the AED program to furnish 50, not only all the city locations, but some other key strategic locations throughout the community. The other AEDs that we had were attained off a grant, and they were end of life. They're no longer supported. They don't make batteries for them anymore, which is pretty common in technology, that about the time you get a technology, you have to start thinking about, all right, when do I replace it? And so those are the example of some of the grants we've gotten so far. So thankfully, we've been pretty lucky, but when it comes to other things like stations and apparatus, those aren't really supported, but unfortunately, but even programs in Homeland Security with even grants for training that allows our guys to bring in hazardous materials training, body armor and vests and those type of things for our firefighters as well. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead.
Chief, I just think so much of you and your team.
Thank you.
Sincere thank you for all
Thank
you
you.
guys do. Keep doing better. I love it. You guys are just improving.
I appreciate that. I had a discussion with one of our training chiefs, and it's like, what do we need to do? Do what you're doing, but do it better. Just do better. And that's the mantra with accreditation, that continuous improvement. If you're doing, and everybody knows I have exceedingly high expectations, and that carries forward. And I wouldn't trade what we're doing. I just ask that we do it better. And it comes at certain costs, but there's certain prices of doing business that Ron and I discuss all the time, and Tina keeps telling me no, but I'm going to win someday. Someday she's going to tell me yes. So I am. I can't say enough good things about what we're doing. It's a little unorthodox with obviously managing 2 departments and a community development division and dispatch center, but you put good people in the right places, and I think good things happen. And I think that's exactly what we've done. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Mello. Anyone else online? I'll just add my thank you to you, Chief Rhodes, for your dedication to our community, for your dedication to performance excellence, and for your leadership. And it's truly inspirational to see what's happened in 7 years, and especially this last year with COVID and the pandemic. And, you know, we all called the healthcare workers and our EMS personnel and our first responders our healthcare heroes, and it's true. But it includes that whole team that you've surrounded them with, and it's just very inspirational. And your leadership has helped everyone in this community and everyone in your department stay safe. And
well, thank you.
I really appreciate that too. I'm sure we all do. I did have a question, actually. That was going to be my wrap-up, but I wanted to ask about the survivability that was so dramatically low for our area of cardiac things.
It is.
Is that because of people don't know the symptoms? They don't know that they're having a cardiac event?
So I would take it all the way from the beginning of educating the public of what is that, right? It's that denial, all the way from denial. It's just something I ate, or I feel this pressure. You can go all the way from that to our population, our risk factors within our population. We can talk about those, the lack of exercise, obesity, smoking, all those different things. Age, I hate to say that, but our population is that, and so we see it. And then it's the reaction of awareness and notification, calling 911, and then being able to initiate bystander CPR or some life-saving actions. And hands-only CPR, we all think about CPR where we're putting our face on somebody else's. It's not that way anymore. It's as simple as pushing on somebody's chest and doing that and trying to maintain some circulation of that oxygen that remains in the blood, trying to get a defibrillator on them. And then you go all the way to response. I mean, we have hands down some of the best paramedics around. We hear that time and time again, but we got to get there. So it goes back through, that's why those dispatch times are so important. Getting us out of the door so fast, once the bells go off, our turnout times, but we still got to drive there. And sometimes our units are on another emergency, and so you get, again, I go back to Station 2's call volume. When they're out of house, you got to think that Station 1 right here is driving up to that, so it takes a couple extra minutes. So all those times are very, very important. So I would say the focus on the educational piece, the CPR, the AED programs, and just the simple awareness, that's a focus, that preventive effort, because you'll have a lot higher survivability rate if it never happens, right? Unfortunately, it's going to happen. So that's where our response model and those things come in. So it's a well-rounded approach to make that better. So it really is. Big focus for us.
I look forward to that number improving.
You and I both.
I know with your team, we'll see better numbers.
Every month, I see those numbers every month, and when I see a one in double digits or in the 20s, I'm like, we're there. And then the next month it goes back down. I'm like, so it's that never-ending education that we have to take on. So
thank you.
So thank you again.
Thank you, and
Yes.
appreciate it. Okay, item B is the Fire Station 5 overview. Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just echo, it's great having awesome leaders underneath you to make you look great, and the chief's doing that. We'll be recognizing him for internally with the Singer Award as well. So I made myself a note, Chief, the Singer Award. And
I want to hear more about this.
later. Anyway, for this next item, Counselor Staley had asked us to look into what would it take to put Station 5 together. We had that presentation created, and due to the lack of access to any computers or the network, we are going to have to postpone that, as we couldn't even recreate it if we wanted to without going home to do it. So that item we will postpone to another agenda. I apologize for that. It could not be avoided, but we did put that together, and we'll see it at another time. So appreciate
Thank
your
you.
indulgence
Yeah.
on that. So thank you.
We'll look forward to that. Then we'll move on to announcements by mayor, council members, city manager, and Manager Fargan. We'll start with you.
You know, I don't have any announcements tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Walker,
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Semele,
I'm good, thank you.
Councilor Mella. No, go right ahead.
I just want to mention that the mayor and vice mayor and myself, we attended the Cal Ranch ribbon cutting, and it was a nice tour and a lovely facility.
And Councilor Semele also was attending. But yes, and it was. And again, that calls for a recognition of our ED team, and also especially Sylvia Schaefer, who was the point of contact, point person, the main point person, coordinating a lot of people to make Cal Ranch happen. It was really a happy event. Councilor Staley,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilor Nelson.
No announcements, thank you.
Okay, I think the only thing I would mention tonight is that we had a very positive strategic planning meeting last Friday, and I wanted to thank everyone on the council and the staff, and especially Manager Fargan for pulling that off again this year and having to do it electronically. And but it was still very effective, and we worked through a lot and discussed a lot of issues. The strategic plan will be looked at to incorporate any new things that we added and talked about that don't change it necessarily, but just add to it. So we really appreciate that happening. Okay, item 7 is a council request for future reports and updates. Do we have any requests for future reports and updates? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here.